Hey folks, it's been a while since we've done this, but I want to talk about a few things that have been on my mind, but I haven't really had time to flesh out those thoughts, so just go deeper into them. So I'm going to take a moment, take 30, to just have a think about that, right? Because for the past many months, it's just been pure Jacob's obsession. And while that's necessary, obviously, I mean, I need more obsession, if anything. I also need to be able to find a way to carve some time away because I've noticed that my creativity drops substantially. This is true, by the way. I didn't need to learn this lesson myself. If I was paying attention, I would have learned this from probably reading some books I read, or internalizing the from some books I read. The lesson being that if you want to be creative, if you want to be productive, right, if you want to be hyper generative in a certain field, don't be purely immersed in that, right, in that thing, in that project. Find some time outside of it, right? With Einstein with his violin, Newton with his alchemy, and I mean, we've got Feynman with his bongos or bonjos. Not sure. Uh, yeah, but the point is that I need to be able to find a way to just shut off my brain from thinking about Jacobs, right? If I want my Jacobs related thoughts and strategies and ideas and just output to be better in quality. And there's a good reason for that, right? I mean, I can talk about the reason at the level of the brain itself, right? When you just think about like, let's say there are these 100 or let's say 1,000 thoughts related to Jacobs I'm having every single day, and my brain runs in these loops, right? Like, okay, so this is my priority right now for this week, for this month. This is what I need to accomplish. This is what we're trying to do, and I'm just running in these loops, right? Like on autopilot. When just working on the nature of the project that we're working on, right? The nature of the problem, for lack of a better word, just affords so much creativity, so much strategic freedom. But I'm not able to make use of that because of just being stuck in those loops, right? I take it, and I'll notice this when I go on those runs when I haven't really done anything fun in a while. God, I need a break. I'm frying up here. Yeah, I really am. Like, just today I felt it, right? Like, I'm feeling it in my bones right now. That I just need a break, right? Like, I just rest back from this because the last many months it's been so close, right? We just need those early wins, and that's gonna open the gift box. But those early wins are the most notoriously difficult to come, right? Like the first 100, the first whatever. That's the phase that me and the team we've been stuck in, and it just sucks balls. My gosh. uh, but we're getting there. We're getting there. My point is, it took me 3 minutes to get to the point. Like, if you want to be really good at something, don't do that thing exclusively. It sounds counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive, but no, it is true. So yeah, I just need to find. I mean, I go on runs and stuff, listen to podcasts and stuff. It does give me at least some time away from this, but I haven't read a book in a while. Haven't watched a movie in a while. I mean, there are not too many good movies, but there's still quite a few. Haven't really done anything, right? Forget about fun, but even like decent. I need to. I need to. I'm really frying up here. Okay. So that's that. Okay. What do we want to talk about? So I tweeted something out the other day. Well, a few months back actually. I found a tweet and I tweeted out general rule for life. First, win the game if you want to change it to transcend it, right? But just want to talk about that particular rule. There's so many things I'm unhappy with in life and in the way we work and the way we turn up and all of that, right? The only way to really go solve that particular problem is to win the game, right? You can't win the game by being in the game. And if you're playing the game, if you're just existing in that realm, you can't win it. You have to kind of go beyond it, go above it, right? And the only way to go above and beyond it is by winning it. This is very interesting, right? So Dan Wang, I think he's written a book about China and I'm assuming their technological rise. I mean, it's just been nothing short of a miracle, right? What's happened in China over the last 3 decades, and he's got this interesting thesis. Engineers tend to think in terms of solving problems. Lawyers profit when there are unsolvable problems, and when you think about that, right, when you look at the makeup of leadership in these countries, like China, very technocratic, right? These people have 7 degrees from top Chinese universities and American universities, and then you look at countries like the UK, the US, where there are so many lawyers, right? India, and like there's no technocracy. There's no people who trained on solving problems rather than people, because lawyers, right, like when you think about it, lawyers, and this is a, again, like he's got his thesis. Wang's central contention is that China is run as an engineering state that excels at construction, while the US has become a lawyerly society that favors obstruction. By 2020, all 9 members of the Chinese Politburo's standing committee are trained as engineers. That is insane, right? By contrast, the US had turned into a government of the lawyers, by the lawyers, and for the lawyers. I mean, that is a damning indictment, a damning statement. So true, right? Like, there's so many lessons to take from there for countries that want to grow. I think you kind of see the same thing in the UA leadership, the Gulf leadership, right? They might not have engineers in the ranks, but they're very much getting they're consulting with engineers to build the future of their countries, and that's why they're growing so rapidly. I mean, Singapore is literally the best example of this, right? Really competent people. Again, this recipe for building a successful country, it's not that hard, right? Just find really good people, really good, talented people, visionary, long-term thinking people, and get them in those positions of decision making, and removing the general obstructions that deter such people, which is corruption and lack of good pay, right? Because if you are competent, you're also going to be ambitious, right? The two are reasonably correlated, and so you're not going to work in a stupid government job for, I don't know, like 100K, 200K, right? So yeah, countries could do that, right? That want to excel. Yeah, so that was something interesting there. Okay, I mean, I put some very trite, very cliche tweets out there. All you need is the right prompt. P.S. This isn't just about AI, right? So true. Like what you say to yourself in a given moment, which is your prompt. Like you're the LLM. Right, when you think about the human architecture, right? So this is so true. The LLM, the reason the architecture is basically you got the brain, like to simplify matters, you got the brain and you got the input coming from the prompt, right? The prompt being the input. For us, the input is what we are choosing in a given moment, what we are saying to ourselves, yeah, and choices we're making, as I said. Right, if you're, over time, if you refine your prompts to yourself, you're going to get better and better outputs, right? So, there's a lot to learn from LLMs. They get a lot of unwarranted hate. Attention and taste are all you need. No, nothing to add to that. Right, recently, this was a while back, Alter Ego was released, which is the world's first neo-telepathic wearable that enables silent communication at the speed of thought. Alter Ego makes AI an extension of the human mind. We made several breakthroughs since our work started at MIT. I mean, the implications of that, right? Like, no intrusion into the brain. It'll wear this thing on your brain, right? Or just put that on your head, and they'll amplify the signal strength of your thoughts to the degree that this wearable will be able to pick up on those thoughts. So, for example, over time, it'll always have to learn what those thoughts are, right? There'll be a training process, I'm assuming, that it'll have to learn that, when you think about this particular thing, this particular part of your brain lights up to this degree, etc., etc. But once it's learned about you, just being able to put on the right, like, let me think. I haven't read too much into this, or I just haven't had time to go into these rabbit holes that I would have liked to, loved to. Right, also the ego. Like, this could be the most consequential piece of technology that's come out this year, and we've got some crazy things coming out that have come out this year. But just think about, right? AI would become a thought interface. So right now I'm let's say I'm speaking with someone, right? And we're kind of limited by our language. Okay, so my vocabulary is limited, my intelligence is limited, obviously. But my actual okay, actually, let me take that back. Right, forget about the intelligence part of it. Sure, the two are correlated, but not entirely, right? Someone could have some really deep notions of the universe. They could have intelligence, because intelligence happens is mathematical in nature, spatial in nature, linguistic, musical, right? Abstraction. So many different forms of intelligence. Now, someone could be really bad at linguistic intelligence, but really good at, for example, shape shifting, and could be really good at those sort of things, right? Now, this would remove the bottleneck that people might have. That particular bottleneck, which is a massive bottleneck, by the way. Okay, so this was really interesting. Dario Amodei was asked what probability he would give to AI ending up a disaster, and he was saying, I think there's a 25% chance. I think they'll really, really badly. And he was saying that I'm an optimist. Right, I mean, saying those two things in the same sentence, it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, I was laughing when I heard about this. Not laughing anymore. But when you think about it, right, like 25% odds, like that's playing Russian roulette with the entire human species, right? So if you're the CEO of a top AI lab like Sam Altman or Dario Amodei, or Damas is in a different league, probably wouldn't would bring him there. But if you really have these P dooms, how do you sleep? Right, because you're essentially gambling. Now, I don't believe the P doom to be that high. I don't really have my P doom at the moment. Like, I need to do some real hard thinking about the subject before I come to this. I've had various ones, but at this point, I just haven't kept up with the recent advancements in alignment, and though that question might be relevant, right, to the actual P2 in a takeoff scenario. That's the crucial part. We might. It looks like we're not in a takeoff scenario, fast takeoff scenario. So I think we are fine for the moment. But okay. So my point was that this 25. What he said, Dario. What he said gives a pretty good glimpse into how the top labs are internalizing the P dooms and probabilities. Right. For them, 25% is like, I'm an optimist. 25. I mean, I wouldn't even say that for my P doom was 1%. Right, I'd say I'm an optimist if my P doom was less than 0.1%. For them to say that so flippantly, P doom meaning the end of human civilization at the hands of AI, inadvertently or by design. Right, so it's not good. Let's just put it that way. So, how to rationalize this from their perspective, right? So if you're the CEO of a top lab, you got pretty much nothing to lose in a way, right? But you got everything to gain. Well, I mean, you got the existing thing to lose, but considering what you got to gain as opposed to that, like that is 100 times greater than that, right? Because if you can build anything with HEI, you pretty much own the entire global economy. And so, from their perspective, these values kind of make sense, rational sense. For humanity, though, the risk calculus is completely different. Right, even 1% would be too much. And again, for humanity, like, there's some truly amazing things to be had, to be gained, and I mean, we could still get to some of those things even without AI, let's be clear about that. Humans have proven to be really intelligent especially over the last couple of centuries. Right, look at the things that we've accomplished. We split the atom. We'll put a man on the moon. We are going to put a man on Mars pretty soon. We've done some pretty incredible things, right? I mean, had you asked someone living in the year 1850 and told them about some of the things that we accomplished, like, they would think that we are some insane aliens, right? So you've done some pretty good, astonishing things. So, so for humans, there's something to be gained by having an ASI, but a lot to lose. Like for humanity as a whole. For the top AI labs, the calculus is completely inverted. But AI is going to, you know, if we are in the positive timelines, and most of the timelines are positive, it's going to have some massive repercussions. It's going to shorten the timeline to solving death. It's going to shorten the timeline to expansion into space. It's going to shorten timelines into solving mental health diseases and solving well-being, essentially, right? Now we could, if we are really thoughtful, we could also do this on our own, but we're not that, right? We're smart, but we're still dumb. We're not wise. Now, offloading the necessity of wisdom to an AI is not the wisest decision either. But what choice do we have, right? We are on this train now, for better or worse, and we'll have to stick through till the end, whatever the end is. That end could be in 10 years, the end could be in 100 years, the end could be in 1 billion years if things go well. But the question I want to pose, and this is a question that I'll pose to myself, well, not frequently enough, but is interesting, is that AI is going to accelerate parts of many of these, solving tests and all of that, right? Solving cancer and solving all disease and all the things I've spoken about. So what is an acceptable level of risk and then there are things that AI is going to do that would have never happened without AI, right? Without ASI. So what is an acceptable level of risk that we want to take on as a civilization? Which is that 0.0001%? Is it 0.01%? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? It's not that the top labs are going to ask humanity this question and then there's going to be a consensus that they'll have to be arrived at. That's not going to be true. But it's a really interesting thought experiment, right? That are the risks worth the rewards? When we could still get the rewards, it'll just be delayed. Right, one of the things that has been the most defining part of the human project, individual humans and collective humans, has been short-term gratification seeking behavior, right? We're not really good long-term operators. There have been a few among us, obviously, but most of us who really suck at long-term thinking, really suck at that. And so we're not going to be able to get this decision right. But it worries me. It does worry me, yeah. But right now, because I've got to cross the threshold myself with decorationality, it doesn't worry me as much, right? Because I've got some other big concerns. Once we solve that problem, once we got these companies doing what I need them to do, then I can worry about the bigger problem of alignment. Right, I don't have the luxury to think about alignment when what I'm building is not aligned with what it could be, right? The scale at which it could be operating. It's very selfish of me. I'm just literally talking about humans not being great long-term thinkers. And if I really, really internalize the importance of alignment, right, I would focus all of my time on that, right? I'd read every single book on the subject. I'd become an alignment researcher. But I know that is not the path to save the world. And it's not the path because the only way to make a dent in the universe, the only way today, is by building something substantial. And I say something substantial, I mean like not for $1 billion, not 10 billion, I mean way beyond that. And that gives you all of the things that you need, right? Resources, right? So once we get there, I mean, again, we may not have enough time, in which case I'm kind of dooming myself. But I do think we've got time, right? We are not on the fast takeoff scenario. So I think we are good for now, based on what I see. Top labs could be cooking something really, really dangerous that could just throw all of these calculations for a spin. But I don't think we are in that scenario, in that timeline. So I think we are good. That was not a very convincing argument, was it? It was not meant to be. Like these are questions I haven't really had time to think about in a while, and I love to. Not love to as in, philosophically and intellectually, obviously this is a subject with deep, just, I mean, I shouldn't say joy when it comes to questions about the existential, well, continuing the existence of humanity and aligning, and the most important question of this century. But I just do enjoy thinking about that, right? Like, that's probably the biggest question of our time. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say that I hope we solve it in time, but what I'm gonna do is, with Helens, you're right. Like one of the sub goals, well, one of the main goals of Helensy is to build that uh, kind of intelligence as aligned by default. Aligned by default. I love that phrase. How come I've never used that before? In all of the marketing material that I've created for, or rather, all of the material I've created for and written for Helensy. Huh. Aligned by default. Hmm. ABDAGI. That'd be something. And there's a way to do it, right? Like, imagine, okay, thought experiment time. Quick. Thought experiment. Imagine if it was me, right? And my brain power, like we figured out biology, we solved biology, and we know how to scale up human intelligence. We'd need to add more brain cells, and I wouldn't be able to carry more brain cells in me. So we'd need to basically create something, maybe a wire, it could be wireless, where we'd create an artificial brain outside of me. Reminds me of that meme where there's this guy who's sitting on his own brain. The chair, the sofa, the couch is the guy's brain, right? So imagine the literal physical version of this, like a literal version of that, where you create an external brain that's connected to your brain, so there's no latency. If we like your subjective experience is still the same as your current experience, except for the fact that you're like a million times faster, you're a million times more intelligent, right? You got a million times more bits of information stored in your brain. So obviously, we'd call that intelligence of that person ASI, right? It wouldn't be ASI, it'd be super intelligence, human super intelligence. But so let's say we do that. Now, if that's me, obviously I care deeply about humanity. I care deeply about the people in my life. I'll care deeply about my family when I have them, if I do. Care deeply about the long-term flourishing of our species and all of my fellow being and all of wildlife and just consciousness, right? Not just like if we discover alien life, and we will. I would also care about all of that, right? Because I have an appreciation for consciousness and just how precious a gift that is. So, so I got that gift comes from obviously my biological evolutionary history, where my ancestors, they, through this long process, they learned to love, right? They learned to have this care for the fellow beings, and so that's in me. Now, obviously, more than that, more than my ancestors, because I've been able to work on myself and refine my love for humanity. But the bottom line is that emotional architecture is in me, and then if you overlay the cognitive architecture on top of that. Yeah, that changes everything, right? So that's the approach that we're going to take at Talinity. And that's why it's so important that we get both of these right. 24 minutes. What have we talked about? We've talked about quite a few things. Do we want to go on a bit more? I mean, it's been a while since I've talked about these things, and gosh, I haven't had any non-work related conversations, so I'm really enjoying this. Let's keep it going a bit more, because I don't want to think about this for a bit longer. It's like, you love something, it's like your baby, right? But sometimes you just want to take a few moments away from your baby because it's like getting too much. Okay, so 15th October, Sam Altman made a pretty big announcement. The enshedification of. Do I want to talk about this? Might as well talk about this because it made quite a lot of waves, and it's kind of related to what we're trying to do with Hellenity, at least adjacent to it. So might as well talk about it. So ChatGPT is basically, oh, I'll just read that verbatim. In December, as we roll out age gating more fully as part of our treat adult users like adults principle, we'll allow even more like erotica for verified adults, right? So that's the start of something. Now, ChatGPT is used by 1 billion people, well, give or take. And I had these concerns, like that was why I started LNC in the first place. I saw humanity moving towards a world where we would have less and less human to human contact, connection, deep connection, and we'd replace or offload that to AIs, because AIs are not going to have the friction, right? You can have the best conversations with your AI without any friction. You'll be able to soon will have like literal physical robots and stuff. Right, so we are entering a really dystopian world if we continue on the same path. Now, let's just be very clear about this. Like the argument that they're making is that we want adults to be able to make their decisions the way they want to, right? Like we don't want to dictate what's possible and what's not. And the reason for this is very obvious. Like if you look at adult content as a category on the internet, it's one of the biggest content the biggest use of the internet. So people are heavy users of adult content, right? People are, let's just say, really driven by their base desires. So this is a very calculated move. Now, once you start doing this, you're going to hook on a lot of people to your platform, because the conversations, these are going to get more personalized. Your partner might not remember details, might not be as on top of things as an AI might be, right? So this is really bad. I wasn't expecting this from OpenAI, because remember, the mandate is to build an AGI that's beneficial for all of humanity. This is not beneficial for all of humanity. This is not beneficial for anyone. Adult content is not beneficial except for maybe like the people who run these businesses. People might be addicted to it and people might be conditioned to using it, right? But it's not good for anyone. Like adult content probably is the worst thing that's happened to the world of relationships, human to human relationships. Yeah, probably the worst thing in history. And this could make that pale in comparison. Because with this, you then got Sora, and then you got Neo, right? So yeah, it's not going in a good direction. Thankfully, we're building a countervailing force against this, but let's be honest. Like, we'll have to get like millions of users. We'll have to kind of create this counter movement. I don't like to be in a place where I try to create a counter movement, but in this case, we'll have to, because this could become normalized, and this could be hugely damaging for all sorts of reasons. I'll try my best not to allow this. Yeah, we can't allow this. It's not going to be good for humanity. Not good for birth rates, fertility rates. It's not going to be good for families. Not good for couples. Not good for friendships. This is not good, right? This is just not good. And you can make the argument. You can make an argument for anything. And so people have been saying that the arguments are really good. Hitler would have made really good arguments for what he did. Stalin would have made all of them did, right? Wow, he made really good arguments for what he did. So, and you can rationalize anything in life. Question is, what do you care about the most? And the thing I care about the most, well, one of the things I care about the most is deeply meaningful human relationships. Like when I take a longer term view of humanity, right, like in the year 2100, what stands out to me, right? Like technology is going to be at an insane stage. The thing that I see are these human to human, humans engaging in play and deep connection. And I wrote a post about that yesterday. And I'm going to fight to make that the norm. Right now, we're really struggling as a species. We gotta do a lot better. A lot better. And I'll do everything in my power through LNOT and DecoViz to ensure that we move towards that future. Because that's the world I want to live in. And if you want to live in a certain world, it becomes your duty. It becomes incumbent upon you. It becomes your responsibility, like your prime directive, to build that world. Because not doing that is shortchanging yourself. It's being unjust to yourself. And it's cheating yourself. Now it's become moist. Yeah, because you're not going in the right direction. I'm really concerned. I gotta do. I was just having a chat with myself today about this thing that is wrong with me on some level, right? I'm too content. Like deep down, I don't need anything in life to be happy. I'm at that stage where I literally, for the last couple of years, I've been living out of one bag, right? I haven't done anything fun. Like, sure, I'd like to travel and, do some of the things I want to do, but I don't need that. I don't need anything to be happy. And that's problematic when you're trying to build something that you hope will reach billions of users. It's problematic because when you're trying to reach that, scale, you've got to be delusional. And partially I'm good at delusions, like I can muster up those delusions when I need to, but I'm not really that good. Right, I need that fire to be lit, and delusions are the only way that can light that fire onto me. Because I want to build it, right? But like I'm building LNC, I'm building DecoViz, but I'm not building these with the urgency that these are absolutely necessary for a post-AGI world to take us in the right direction. Right, that is the bottom line of why I'm building. So I don't talk about this often with people because they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like, what are you? Are you a hippie?" But boy, the bottom line is, I've got to do everything I can to push us in the right direction. And LNT and DecoViz are the vehicles through which I'm trying to accomplish that. Which means that if I'm serious about reaching the scale, right, like this LNT reaching a few million people, DecoViz reaching a few million people, that is not going to constitute success for me at all. Like building a billion-dollar company is not going to constitute success at all. I have to operate at the scale of billions of users to be able to materially change the direction we are heading towards. If I don't do that, I'll have failed. I'll have failed in the second most important mission of my life. Well, the third most important mission of my life. Okay, so what are the first two missions? Actually, like, it's a joint first mission, to be honest, right? The most important mission in my life is to become the person I want to be, right? Which sounds very weird, but at the end of the day, like, if you haven't attained the state of being that you want to inhabit, everything else is pointless, right? Like you could have $100 billion, you could have the most palatial places to live, right? You could have hundreds of private jets, so I don't know what someone would do with 100 private jets. You could have everything in the world. You could have a beautiful partner, a beautiful family, right? But if you are not truly who you want to be at the deepest level, then you'll have failed in your most fundamental duty. Second part of it is obviously I'd love to have a family, right? That's it. Love to love someone with the deepest love, right? That resides in me, because I don't think I'm capable. There's this deep reservoir of love, and the only object to which I could kind of transmit that love would be my children, right? That's something that I need to also talk about, right? That's a very interesting idea, but we'll talk about that some other time. And the joint thought is being able to materially, move us in the direction that, not because of my arrogance, but I just think that deep down that certain self-actualization is what we are seeking, right? as a species and as individuals. Again, I wrote a post about that. We are not going in that direction. We're going in a direction where everything's going to be about consumption and hedonism and transactionalism and superficialism and virtuality and power games and status games and hunger games. And I don't want to live in that world. I don't want my kids, if I ever have kids, to live in that world. And so I'll try my damnedest. I'll fight my hardest to make sure that that doesn't happen. As a duty to myself, as a duty to the future generations. And on that very optimistic note, wow, this was something, right? I became emotional. I don't know why. Yeah, it's just that I haven't really had a chance to talk about these things in a while. And these are some really difficult questions to grapple with. The most difficult question to grapple with at this point is the odds of making it happen at the scale I need to make it happen at. Right? For this to be worth anything, it needs to happen at that scale. Anything less than that? Right, I'm not one of those people that would be happy with this tech of is changing the life of, the lives of 10,000 people or a million people. That'd be good. Compared to the counterfactual of tech overs and LNC not existing, that'd be good. But looking at the potential and looking at the absolute necessity, right, where humanity more than anything else needs that wisdom layer, and that wisdom is a creation through these deep, meaningful relationships, right? It's an emergent property. And so if we make that happen, right, in a way, I mean, the thesis that we have at Hellenity is that deep, meaningful relationships, they solve every societal problem. I think I'll probably written it down that way, but if I haven't, then that's a really succinct way to capture it. I'm sure there's a better way to put it, but for now we'll go with this. Deep, meaningful relationships are the solution to every problem we face, as individuals and as a society. Right, even at the level of the individual, obviously that's true, but even at the level of, people who are very monks, right, they don't need relationships. But they do need a deep, meaningful relationship with themselves. And that's also what LNT affords, so yeah. We'll make it work. I just need that fire. Yeah, because one of the things that's missing in here, the mission is so idealistic, it's so beautiful, even if I say so myself. It's so, obviously it's inspiring. I mean, why would I be working on it if it wasn't? But because of the nature of this mission, it almost creates this trance-like state. Oh, look at this, look at the things that it's going to do. And that I don't know if it directly dampens the fire, but I need a different kind of fire. And I'll need to kind of work at it. Yeah, I'll need to work at it. I think that should be for now. 40 minutes is a pretty long session. I'll catch up. I'll try to do these every day because boy, did I need that. Right, even when I'm speaking with the people in my life, like I'm only talking about Decoviz. It's so funny that where I'm talking to no one in particular, like this is like a portal to the world, but no one's gonna hear it. Right, I might post this on YouTube, but this becomes a conduit to conversations that I want to have, but I haven't really had an opportunity to in a while. So yeah, this is. I mean, I would notice that in the where I've done this previously, occasionally, but it's something to take away. So I think that should be for now. I'll catch you guys soon, and thanks for the time, and keep fighting for that beautiful future. That's the message I'll leave you with. Take care. Adios.